Hello and welcome, or welcome back to the Rich by Design podcast. I am so glad that you are here. So, I don't know where in the world you're listening to this. I would love to hear. Please feel free to drop me a note or a message. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it is July 3rd. 2026, and we here in the US have a holiday tomorrow. It's America's 250th birthday. It is hot as heck. There's so many things going on, and I don't want to go and do any of them. Well, I want to go and do them, but I don't want to be outside to do them because it is so freaking hot. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to record a podcast episode instead. So here we are. And over the past few episodes, I have been taking you behind the scenes of my own experience with the Safe and Sound protocol and sharing some of the subtle but not so significant changes that I have noticed. And today, I want to talk about a shift that I had really didn't anticipate going into it. It wasn't something that when I agreed to do the Safe and Sound protocol that I even thought to say, hey, this is what I wanted to help me shift. And it has something to do with something that most of us want, but many of us avoid. Something that can bring up excitement and fear and freedom and shame. Something that we all have a relationship with, whether we realize it or not. And that is money. So for me, for as long as I can remember, money felt overwhelming. It felt like anytime I looked at it, well, I really just would try to do everything I can to not look at it. And after going through the Safe and Sound protocol, something changed for me. For the first time in my adult life, I actually really wanted to spend time with my money. I found myself genuinely curious. I was curious about where it was going, curious about how I could grow it. And I might even say I was a little bit excited. And if you have ever avoided looking at your bank account because you were afraid of what you'd find, then you probably understand why what I'm going to share with you feels like such a big deal. So, as I mentioned, I've been sharing about how the Safe and Sound protocol has made shifts for me and why I am obsessed with it. There's so many different things, and you can go back and listen to the couple of episodes that I've shared already about how it's changed for me. And I'll share more in coming episodes. But today, specifically, I want to share about how it shifted my relationship with money. So, I want to start by sharing with you that years ago, I learned about the sacred money archetypes. So, the sacred money archetypes were created by Kendall Summerhawk, and they are 8 different personalities or money types that we have. When we think about an archetype is something that when you can say it in any language, somebody will get. So you can go anywhere in the world and say the word king and everybody understands that. That's an archetype. And so with Kendall Summerhawk's theory, there are 8 different archetypes or money personalities. And her theory is that we're a combination of 3 of them. And when I read my 3, actually I have a tie for the third, so it was really 4. Oh my gosh, I felt so seen and was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly like me. So the 8 money archetypes are the accumulator, who is the banker, the alchemist, who is the idea generator, the celebrity, who is the star, the connector, who is the relationship builder, the maverick, who is the inner rebel, the nurturer, who is the loving caretaker, the romantic, who is the leisure and luxury lover, and the ruler, who is the empire builder. So, side note, if you want to learn what yours are, I will drop a link to a quiz where you can take it and you'll get access to a free 4-part workshop to learn about yours. And each archetype has their own set of 4 videos. So you get to learn about your specific type when you're listening to those 4 videos. Then you can go and watch the videos of the other 4 ones, of the other archetypes, if you want to, but at least just listen to your top archetypes. So when I heard first of mine, I had a tie between, like I said, well, I had 2 and then a tie on the third. And like most people who are connector archetypes, they typically have numbers that are really, really close together. And so my top one was a connector, which is the relationship creator. They're the ones who want to connect people with everything. They want to connect with people. I am such a connector that I love connecting with people, and I love, connecting people with the resources that can help them. And the thing about the connector archetype is that their relationship with money is a very complex relationship because money, if it were up to them, they would never deal with it in the first place. So my second archetype was a nurturer, and the nurturer is the loving caretaker. The nurturers actually have a decent relationship with money, and they are good with money because they love taking care of things. So they're great at taking care of their money. The challenge is if somebody needs money that they have, then they feel guilty and then they'll give away their money. And they will also give away their time, their resources, they will put everybody else's needs above their own. And so when it comes to boundaries, they're not so great for nurturers. So I'm going to take a sip of water first. Okay, sorry if you're listening to this. I've got halfway through recording this and then I had this coughing fit and there's no pause button. I'm like, oh my goodness, there needs to be a pause button. So anyway, okay. So I said I had the connector, I had the nurture, and then I also had then a tie for my third, which was between the alchemist, who is the idea generator, and they're the ones who have so many ideas that they can tend to be all over the place and they can't figure out how to monetize because they have so many different things they want to do. And then the maverick, who is the inner rebel. They want to be disruptive. They want to do things differently than everybody else, and they get bored quickly. And so when I learned these things, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense because my connector always wanted to avoid money, wanted nothing to do with it. And I had this long-standing money story that I'm stupid when it comes to numbers. And I thought, I just can't do this. And then my nurture would just want to give everything away for free. But then I also had so many ideas that I could never stick to one thing. And I would start doing one thing and then get bored. And then my maverick is like, yeah, but this isn't unique enough. So I really had a big struggle when it came to creating things to generate money. And so, and I want to say too that it's not that I didn't care about money. He keeps saying as a nurturer or connector, I don't care about money. Really what I've discovered is that I cared about it. It just felt so freaking overwhelming. Because if I knew there wasn't enough, then I didn't want to know about that. If I spent more than was necessarily, I didn't want to know about that. And I would just feel disappointment in myself. And then I would feel disappointment and then I would avoid it even more because everything that we do or don't do is always to feel a certain feeling. So I was like, I'm going to avoid this so I don't have to feel this. Why would I do something that would make me feel disappointed? And then after the disappointment always comes shame. The shame of I should know better. I should do better. I should figure this. I should have this figured out, right? And everybody else has got this figured out, but I don't. So it just created this perpetual cycle of I'm just not going to deal with it because I don't want to feel like that. And when it comes to money, being an entrepreneur, I've worked for myself for like 20 some years. When I got my master's in counseling, I got a job as a therapist at a group home. And then right after that, which is like about 2005-ish, then right after that, I went to school and became a health coach. And so from then on, I have been working for myself in some capacity. I did work for Tony Robbins Coaching Company for 3.5 years, and I did work as an intensive in-home therapist for a year when I was working for Tony Robbins. But all in between that time, I was also doing health coaching. I was teaching cooking classes. I was doing all of these other things. So I've always had some semblance of working for myself, and that is not an easy road. I will tell you that. And working for somebody else is not an easy road either, right? We get to pick our hearts. And throughout that time in the past 20 years, I've had to deal with being audited. I've had to deal with feast and famine cycles. I've had to deal with not knowing where my money is. I have had to deal with bankruptcy. Like there's been so many things that I've had to deal with. And so I just continually was in this phase of like, well, it'll just all work itself out. And honestly, this is really embarrassing to admit, but there was always this thought of somebody's going to come and rescue me. I'm going to meet some man and he's going to have all the financial stuff figured out and we're going to get married and I won't have to worry about it because I didn't want to deal with it. And I kept trying to think my way out of it, but that wasn't working at all. And I don't know if you can relate, but I'm sure that there's plenty of women out there who can just think, is somebody just going to come and rescue me from all this? I literally just had a conversation with a girlfriend earlier today who said the exact same thing. She's like, I just want a man to come and take care of the money stuff for her. And I was like, I get it. I absolutely get it. And so When I learned about the money archetypes, it started to open my eyes to the fact that my relationship with money is a relationship. It is a literal relationship that I would actually benefit from learning how to have a good relationship with it, like how to really relate to it really, really well. So that set me on this trajectory of taking money courses, whether it's manifestation courses, mindset courses, energy work, clearing, like budgeting courses. I've taken so many of them. There's one out there that I've taken that is a really big name course, and it's all about nervous system stuff. And the thing about that course and all the other ones I've taken is that they taught me what to do once I was already dysregulated. I never had anybody help me to become somebody who didn't become dysregulated in the first place. And that is a really, really big distinction because there are 1,001 tools out there to help us when we get dysregulated. But is how do we become somebody who has such a wide window of tolerance that we don't get knocked off course in the first place? Now, I want to be really clear and say that I'm not saying that we don't have big emotions about things. We are human. This is part of the human experience is to feel emotions. That is what we came for, and that's what we're created for in many ways. And the question is, how quickly can you return back to yourself? And how can you be present to the presence of what you're feeling? That's the work. Because most of us get hijacked by these feelings and we get caught in this spiral, and then we just stay in it for days and weeks on end. And then that becomes our personality. So in November of 2025, I went through the Safe and Sound protocol. It took me just under about 2 months to go through. And for most people, it can take anywhere from 6 to 14 weeks, sometimes longer. And for me, I noticed that I had more of a desire to actually spend time with money. Now, I am not going to say that when I think about money or think about going into my bank accounts, I'm automatically like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so exciting. Right? There's still this tinge of like, oh, what am I going to see? Because that's just this hard wiring that is there. And here's the thing. Hey, now that I'm actually spending time with my money, I know where things are for the most part. Like on a weekly basis, I'll have a, check-in with money. I don't have that same dread looking into my accounts that I used to. And I'm not going to say it's completely gone yet, but where before it was 100% dread, now it's like 5% dread. And it's as if I can see it instead from the perspective of being an outsider instead of being caught in it. I can see that it's happening and then remind myself, Heather, that is not actually even how you're feeling currently. That's an old feeling that's coming up that wants to protect you, but you don't need to be protected now. And so since doing the Safe and Sound protocol, I've been having more fun spending time with money, which I'm thinking now about how I can build my wealth, which is embarrassing because I'm 52 years old. And, I would think maybe I should have thought about that years ago, but I'm not going to shame on myself because I know that there's plenty of women who haven't even started thinking about that. And it makes sense why I didn't think about it. At least now I have the desire to do it and the belief that I can do it, which is way different than me 10 years ago. So I'm having so many more conversations with money instead of avoiding them. And the thing is that money itself didn't change. It's that my capacity to have a relationship with money changed. I want to say that again because my thing blipped out and I don't know if it froze, but I want to say that, money itself didn't change. It's that my capacity to have a relationship with money changed. And here's where understanding my connector archetype was really validating because it helped me to see, of course, I want to ignore my money. That's part of the disempowering part of the connector. And there's also an empowering part as well. And the empowering side is that I can see money as a relationship because I love connecting in relationships. And as I've started to see it as a relationship, I can learn how to connect with it more and relate with it more instead of this is something that I have to avoid. And so instead of shaming myself, understanding my archetype really helped me to understand myself, which changed the baseline of how I looked at my relationship with money. And then add in human design, which helped me to understand what happens when money shame shows up for me, what parts of my human design naturally pull me into that spiral, and what parts of my design I can actually lean on. Because more often than not, we go and look at all the negative or disempowering things about ourselves and say, okay, instead of saying, what are the strengths that I have and how can this part of my design, or what are the parts of my design that can actually help me? So I created a custom GPT that is programmed on human design, money archetypes, and nervous system stuff. And I call her Mira, and which she spelled with a Y, which I don't know why I did that, but that's the way it is. And now I have her to go to when I get into any type of spiral that can help me. I can go to her to help me get out of it so much faster, because one, I now have the capacity to move through it faster. And then two, then I have the information. So just last week, when a situation came up where I started to feel some shame around money, I was able to objectively say, okay, what's going on here with these feelings that are coming up? And then I went to Mira and was like, where in my design am I prone to staying in shame and disappointment? And what parts of my design can I trust when my money activates me? And what she said, and I'm not going to share it with you, not because I don't mind sharing it with you. It's just that it really won't resonate with you because it's not speaking to you and your design. Right? It's speaking to me and my design. When I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so incredibly powerful. So this is why, for me, I don't believe in one modality, or I don't believe that one modality is enough anymore. The Safe and Sound protocol gives me the capacity to hold my and handle my relationship with money more. Human design gives me the map of the places that I can get stuck and the places that it can help me live in a more empowered place. And the Sacred Money Archetypes help me to understand my patterns. None of them replace the others. Together, they just completely shift and change together my relationship with money. And this is what I do in my group program, Designed to Rise, where I help women understand these components. Help them understand these components. So once they work with SSP, the Safe and Sound protocol, to help shift their nervous system, and then they get lessons on understanding their human design and how they can work with that design, and understanding their money personality so they can work with themselves instead of against themselves. Right? It's so powerful, because so much of our personal development is always like, how do I overcome this? How do I hack this? How can I think differently about this? And while, yes, I'm all for reframing our thoughts, like, it's really not about that. It's more about, how can I lean into my design? How can I lean into the way that I'm created and to make it work for me instead of trying to overcome something? It is such a completely different come from than the I need to fix myself. So I have this dream, and it's not about helping women become millionaires. I'm a connector. Like I said, I don't care much about the money, actually, right? It's not the number part. And I know that some of you may be listening and you might be ruler archetypes, and you're like, I absolutely care about the number, Heather. You should too, right? And that's fantastic, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. My job is to help you understand who you are and what your design is and how to work with that, not how to work with my design. So I don't dream about helping women become millionaires. I dream about helping women become the women who can actually hold being millionaires, or whatever amount of money it is that they desire, which are two totally different things. And that is why my mission is to help women become rich by design. And rich is regulated and integrated, so that your nervous system is regulated. You're integrated with your design so that you have the capacity to hold more. It's more money, more visibility, more leadership, without abandoning yourself in the process. And that, excuse me, is the key. It's all about, how do we be with our feelings that we're feeling and not abandon ourselves, not shame ourselves, not go down that shame spiral. And that is so key. And it's something that I don't feel like many people are talking about because it's easy to market. Here's the trick. Here's the hack. Here's the 10 steps, right? It's not easy to market. How do we come back to ourselves? Right? How do we be present to the presence of what we're feeling? So again, I am not teaching women how to manage money. I help them to become women who have the capacity to manage money, because money is a mirror to help us understand our own patterns. How we do money is how we do everything, and it shows up every single place. That is why I'm on a mission to help women become rich by design. I want them to be regulated. I want them to be integrated. I want them to have the capacity to hold more money, more visibility, and more leadership without abandoning themselves in the process. So if you're ever like, oh my gosh, my nervous system seems fried, I don't have the capacity, I could really use some support. The thing I love about the Safe and Sound protocol, as I mentioned, is it's not something that's like, here, you're dysregulated, do this tool. This literally helps to rewire and retune your nervous system at the baseline. And I'm not going to act like it is an easy process to go through all the time, because your nervous system has to make some shifts and changes, and it might give you some pushback. And it is a beautiful process as you go through it to actually feel how your body and your nervous system is shifting and changing. So I would love to talk to you if you think, wow, the Safe and Sound protocol and human design and money archetypes, like this feels like a missing piece for me. Because let's be honest, it feels so good when you can honor your design and have the capacity to hold more. So that's my story about how SSP helped me shift my relationship with money. I hope that one day I'll be able to help you with those tools to shift yours, if that's something you want to shift. So until next time, I will talk to you later. And remember that you get to be rich by design, regulated, integrated, with the capacity to hold more. See you next time.